Welcome to Secrets from the Chopping Block. Anything to do with culinary. So today we're going to talk about sharpening knives. So first thing we need to do is look at a stone. As you can probably tell, this isn't a stone at all, it's actually a brick. There's nothing actually wrong with using a brick. If you're going to buy a professional stone, you get them based on the grit size, and the grit may be 800 to 1000 to 1500. The bigger the number, the finer the grit. But if you have a knife that doesn't cut at all, then you need a very low grit, maybe a 400. That is actually where this will come in, because a brick has a very low number. So if you do get a stone, quite often one side will be a medium grit and the other side will be a fine grit. So you can flip them over to use them. If you have an oil stone, remember to use oil on it, never put water on it. If you have a water stone or a wet stone, only put water on it. You do need to put one or the other. So even if you're using a stone from the garden or a brick like this, you do need to put water on it. So let's put some water on it. There we go. So I'm going to use my utility knife, and it has a fairly decent edge on it right now. And we're going to spread the water out on the brick. Now you may see lots of different videos on how to do this, but the way I feel it should be done is always make sure that you're going away from the blade. So that means when you start like this and put the tip down, put your fingers on the blade and push it away like that. And you kind of do it in a circular motion. So start with the tip, but push down. Remember you have an angle, and the angle is created by your right hand. So as you push down, each time you do it, the angle is probably going to change a little bit, but just keep on going like that. After a few strokes, maybe 10, you will realize that there's a little bit of a burr on the blade, and you can feel that. So when you feel maybe after 10 strokes, you flip it over and you do it the other way. To do it the other way, same thing. I do it away from the blade. So always keep the blade away from you. So that's this particular knife. It also works for a small one. Don't forget, this brick is probably way bigger than any stone you're going to get, but the same thing is true. Put it down here, keep the handle away from it, and do a stroke like that. And then when you flip it over to the other side, you can tell if it's working partly by feeling it, but also you're going to get some grit on the brick. And that is the key. So that is it for the brick. Let's go to the next way of sharpening. This is an absolutely wonderful machine. It's Chef's Choice Hybrid 250. Working in a kitchen, you always need to have a sharp knife. Using a steel is always very good, but trying to get that edge and keep the edge, regardless of what knife you're going to use, it's going to lose its edge. This is a wonderful one. As you can see here, it has two different levels of coarseness. Number 1 being the most coarse and the 2 being fine. And number 3, of course, is deemed to be like a honing. So in the honing, it's actually a ceramic disc. So simple, we switch it on. It has an angle already done. So as soon as you put the knife in at the angle, and then draw it back. Very simple. I do it to the left side. And then we go finer. You can tell by the noise it makes. And then the last part is kind of like a leather strap. A lot of places you'll see, like barbers used to do that as well. They would use a stone and then they would take on a leather strap just to really hone it. So we do the same thing with my paring knife as well. So this is very simple and easy because you have the angle already decided for you, and this is a very good angle to use. I know that some chefs will have less of an angle than that simply because it's going to give them a finer blade that will last longer. But if you have a stone to really put an edge on the blade and then use this to finish it, we're looking good. The last thing, most importantly, is this guy, which is a steel. Now, you'll notice everything you're doing has a certain direction to it. Well, here we have the same thing as well. What I'm just going to show you here is how you use the steel and how you slice and how you work with the knife. The knife will become magnetized. That's a good thing. You want to keep it that way. So to make sure it stays that way, when you actually sharpen the knife or hone the knife, because this is all a steel really does, it doesn't sharpen it, it just hones it. I find that when I was working, I would hone the steel maybe 20 times in an 8-hour shift, if not even more than that. So the secret really is you have a few options, but whatever option you do for the steel, make sure you do it the same every time. So you could start this way and bring it down. That's why you have a guard right here, in case you bring the blade in that way. And then of course you bring the blade in that way. But what I do is I turn it and I do it this way. So I start here and I go out. Some people may do it like this and go like that, which is kind of dangerous if someone's standing next to you. But going this way, I don't recommend. My way of doing it is keep the blade on the inside and work your way out like that. And that honing shouldn't be more than maybe 3 or 4 times each side. All right, and that is it for sharpening the knife. Now, testing if the knife is sharp is a wonderful thing. There's a few ways of doing it. One of them is, believe it or not, is run the knife across your nail. Here's the key. If the blade itself is a bit dull, that is going to make your work so much harder. And if it makes your work so much harder, it means you're going to require more effort to cut things. And there with the effort comes the problem. Now, the best thing as far as I was concerned regarding how sharp a knife is, to test how sharp a knife is actually a tomato. So if we can just slice a tomato like that with a straight blade, that's phenomenal. So then, if I can then so it's nice and fine and the seeds are staying in. I used to have a chef who would watch tomatoes being sliced and he wanted to count the seeds on the table. He wanted to see no seeds. So what I would do is I'd use a bread knife, but with a bread knife, it pulls the seeds out. So you'd have to have a straight blade like this, and a tomato is the best way of seeing how sharp your knife is. And that's it for sharpening knives.